We should be live, so you can go ahead and post it.
Sorry, what was that?
I was just saying we're live, so Catherine can go ahead and post it if she wants.
Okay. So I'm guessing while Catherine is typing that, we can kind of talk about the article. So I thought it was interesting that like someone had broken down how much goes into fraud.
Yeah.
For me, I guess I always thought it had been just like a series of bad decisions. Like I know some people do it on purpose, but I never thought there was that much to it.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, like all the different roots of bias. Like there's ambiguity, attachment, familiarity, approval, discounting, like escalation. All those, like each one is its own separate thing that leads into bias, which therefore leads into like the fraud and the accounting frauds and things like that.
Exactly.
There's not
I
just,
think. Oh, sorry.
no, I was just saying there's not just one way that you go to it.
Yeah, they're all kind of connected, and it would be hard to go just through one. But
Yeah.
okay, do you want me to read Catherine's out loud so it's on the recording?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. I work on campus for event services. When coordinating events, I try not to give favor to one group over another. Sometimes when clients ask for things last minute, it can be difficult to not be stubborn about helping, specifically when IBC groups come into the office minutes before the start of their reservation and demand changes or additions to their reservation. When they act entitled, it can be difficult to not show bias.
I believe that.
Yeah. So which one?
Would that fall under? That's a good question.
Yeah. I don't think it would be ambiguity, or if I'm saying that right, I'm not sure.
Ambiguity.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm not sure if it like. Hmm.
Do you think it would maybe be familiarity? Because, like, sorry, I'm not trying to speak through you, Catherine, but I'm guessing you don't, like, know most of these people.
I
So
guess.
I'm sure, like, you get frustrated more quickly when you don't know them.
I guess in a way that could be like it's more like the polar opposite of familiarity, but I think that's the best one that we could of those.
Okay. Did you want to go next for your example, or did you want me to?
I can go.
Okay.
So because like it didn't necessarily have to be something specific to me. I did attachment bias, and I did it for mothers because a lot of times you have your mothers or your parents who like will storm into a place saying, "How can you blame my son for this? My son's an angel." Blah blah blah, and it's becoming more and more common in our society these days. And so, I put my parents these days look at their own children and fail to see their faults and flaws. In addition to that, they tend to believe that their children are well behaved and it's not their fault, and it's really the other child's or the school's fault. Attachment breeds bias, and so that's my example is um, how our society is gaining more attachment bias towards their parents in our society are getting more attachment bias towards their children and not seeing what's really going on.
I think that's a pretty good example.
Thanks.
So for mine, I talked about I don't want to say it wrong, the discounting kind of bias. And so, like, I know last semester I took an online class, and none of the assignments were due until like the day of the final. And they kind of had like a suggested timeline that you would follow. But because there were no immediate consequences, which falls under the discounting, um, I don't know, yeah, discounting method. I don't know if that's the right word. Discounting bias. There we go. I didn't do most of the work on the time that it should have been because there was no consequences, and then that just led up to me having to do a bunch of makeup work that wasn't as good. And so, yeah, I think that example works.
Yeah, I like that example. Josh, are you able to hear us?
Yeah, sorry guys, I'm just getting home. Sorry, I'm running late.
No worries. At least you're here.
Yeah, no kidding. So I was looking up an example about an ambiguous contract, and so what I was looking up is like an ambiguous contract is meaning like if there's a situation where in a contract there's a word or like something that's not like super clear, like there could be two different meanings to the word, like the way that you word something in a contract. And so I'm still trying to learn more about it, honestly. Like I haven't done a whole lot of research about it, but um, I don't have the best example today. I'm not super prepared, but basically I'm studying about like an ambiguous contract and and how like there's different like ways you could handle it because you're it's not really super clear on what the meaning of it is. So it says right here, it says, for example, a contract may have referenced a dollar amount for a Canadian insurance contract. The word dollar might be ambiguous here since it might mean either US dollars or Canadian dollars. So basically, like having a word that could mean multiple things and you're not quite sure on it.
Yeah. Do you have like do you are there like ambiguous stuff like in your everyday life or something that you see around? Naturally occurring ambiguous thing that we see in life.
Not that I can think of offhand.
Okay, no worries. Um, I think that's the one who's gonna be showing up today. I guess we can move on from showing our group examples.
Yeah, I think so. I can be the one that writes the paragraph, kind of just like what we talked about today, and then I can submit that if you guys are good with that.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. I don't think we need to especially still be on call for that. I can send you guys a rough draft over the email if you want me to, but
Nah, it's pretty simple. Like we can talk about it right before everyone leaves and just decide what was the most important or interesting insight we think happened with our discussion.
okay, sounds good.
Awesome. Thank
Um,
you guys.
yeah. So there are some questions to guide a discussion here. Have any of you read any of the questions?
I kind of glanced over them. Um,
I'm just wondering if there's any question in particular anyone wants to start with.
we could talk about the last one. Why do you think it's so difficult to overcome bias even when you know about it?
Okay.
So I personally think for that one, that we justify our own reasons a lot. So that kind of clouds our judgment in a lot of aspects.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time bias is like we're not even intentionally trying to be biased. It's just natural. Like, for example, if we work with our husband or wife or our girlfriend, then like you're naturally going to be biased to them, like say your boss and stuff. Like naturally you are. You're not even going to think about it, you know? You'll just kind of tend to be a little bit biased on that end in a business point, but.
I think it's kind of another reason it's kind of so hard to overcome is because as we were reading, like with all these different bias, there's where is it at? There's like attachment, familiarity, approval. Those are things that we kind of seek for in life, and as we seek for them, we tend to gravitate towards them, and we don't want to. Like especially with approval and familiarity, we don't want to harm them. We don't want to think worse of them. We want to think the best of the people that we are close to and that we know. And I think that as we do that, we tend to not necessarily see them as who they are, but see them as who we want them to be.
I think that's a good way to put it.
And like that ties right into the example I shared. Like parents are like nowadays they have more like approval and familiarity bias and attachment. Like they're just finding it harder and harder to see the true reality that's around them, and they're blaming it on other people rather than their own kids.
Yeah, because I think once you develop one kind of bias, it's easier to kind of just sink into more, and then it's kind of just a bad cycle from there.
I believe that.
Okay, so if I kind of make that the topic of, or like the main subject of that paragraph, I think that'll be pretty good. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Let me know if you need help with anything, and I can like email you some ideas. I just really haven't looked over it too much yet, but
Okay.
I'm gonna look over here really quick. Just email me if you need any help or some ideas or something.
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Well, is there really anything else that we needed to talk about?
I don't think so.
I think we're good. It seems like every week we have less and less of a group, and I see it happening to myself too. Like I just lose motivation.
I see that.
I'll work on next week. I'll prioritize this assignment. So.
And Chris, thanks for starting the link. Sorry, I couldn't.
No worries. I was just like, someone, I think it was, who was it? Yeah, no, it was Catherine. She was like, was it Catherine you asked earlier? No, I think it was you. Yeah, it was you. You're like, hey, did anyone start the link? I'm like, no, but you can go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll just start it next week and just send the link at 4:45. Hopefully everyone shows up on time.
Okay, that sounds great.
So I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast now, unless we have any questions.
Okay, right. Well, you guys just let me know if you need any help.
Okay.
Have a good night. Bye.
You too.